So it's been a little while since I had the camera running while I was doing some work. So some things have changed that I wanted to talk about. So let me point at what we got going on. What have I done? The intermediate shaft for the passenger side CV axle has been installed, as well as the brackets for supporting the exhaust manifold and the turbocharger. I can't remember exactly what I caught on film at this point. I've just did a few things while I was out here. So the oil filter cooler mount, I got that installed, and going to be adding something, another cooler. So as you can see, the built-in, the OEM oil cooler has two lines that go, one right up here to the block, okay, that comes down and goes into the upper one right here. This is probably fluid going in. Let's see, probably fluid going in, and then this hose coming out of the oil cooler goes up, across in the back there, all the way up. See if I can get my hand in there, to right here. If you can see that, that's going into one of the heater core lines, okay? That in turn goes into the firewall to the heater core, okay? So that's what the turbo motor typical OEM uses to cool the oil. So what I wanted to do was cool it even better. So what I have is from Summit Racing, this adapter, and it goes right onto the oil cooler, okay? Good shot. Goes right onto there, sits there, and then you have this threaded part that will hold it down, and then you put your oil filter on those threads. But what this has is in and out ports to run to an external oil cooler. So that's what I'm going to do, and we'll start that soon. So I need to figure out the angle at which I can bolt this guy on, because I gotta be able to fit the hose adapters that thread into this, that'll have the oil running through them. And I'm either gonna have to do it at this angle, okay, if I can fit one there, or we do it at let's see, that angle, or this angle, if I can have the fittings fit in there. I do not want to do it at the downward angle with them both pointed down like that, because that's getting too low. It's the hoses and the fittings would be pretty low down, and there's no room to do them straight up because they will run into the intermediate shaft here, okay? So that kind of leaves me with either this option or that option. We'll see what I can do. Then the idea is I hook up the hose fittings, which I have an angle one that'll go into that adapter, and it's got the threaded part here, 6/8, so it goes 3/8 NPT into that adapter plate with the two lines in and out to a 6/8, and I got the 6/8 fitting here that'll go onto it, okay, and it'll sort of be like that. And then I need to run the hoses this direction. My plan is to run the hoses back behind the intercooler hose here from the turbocharger. They'll go back in here. I might be able to use this bolt hole on the transmission to hold them, right? And then have them travel this same path that the power steering lines do. Okay, and power steering lines mount up here and here, and this also holds the intercooler pipe here. And there is enough space right here that I think I can fit another set of these type of brackets, these little holders here that can hold the two oil hoses. See, I have all that space there. Then they can run out and around to the front of the radiator into the oil cooler, and I'll have a transmission cooler as well, external, in addition to the OEM. So a couple coolers in front of the radiator. So that's what I got to do, is run those hoses for the oil cooling. Another thing I got going for oil, so that I can tell what the pressure is, besides just having the oil light on the dash, is this adapter right here, which, as you can see, kind of does a T. So I'm going to put the factory oil pressure sending unit threads right into there. The same thread goes into the block, and then it has a T that goes off, and you can see behind this oil drainage tube from the turbocharger. Back there is an oil pressure sending unit. Okay, and I got that wired in, and the wire goes here up and into the dash where I have an oil pressure gauge. So basically trying to keep it cool. Oil getting too hot is one of the biggest things you want to be careful of with the turbocharged motor. So there's already the oil jets in the block that squirt the pistons from the bottom. There's all the additional, the external oil cooler from OEM, from Chrysler for the PT. Yeah. And remember that the oil is also being pumped up to the turbocharger, lubricating that, cooling that, so your oil is getting even more heat from the turbocharger, a lot of heat. So the more you can do to cool it off, the better. So that's why I'm adding an external cooler. That's it, so let's get to work. Hey everybody, time to keep going. So right now we're into maybe not the funnest of stuff. It's a lot of tubes, it's a lot of hoses, it's a lot of wires, a lot of things that are different between the naturally aspirated and the turbocharged motor as well. For example, the air conditioning hoses, got to replace those to be compatible with the dryer and the condenser, because they're different. I am able to use the same compressor, AC compressor, and the accumulator that's on the inside in the dash. Still going to use that, so I don't have to get into the dash and replace that. Hallelujah. I'm also working on custom oil and transmission lines to go to external coolers, and those have to be mounted in front of the radiator. Wiring for transmission fluid temp sensor and oil pressure sending unit, which I've mounted. You saw that in the previous video. Yeah, so let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do today is work on the oil pressure. This is the factory, the OEM oil pressure wire, which goes to the factory sending unit switch, which is on the back of the block. And because of the adapter I had to install to have the autometer oil pressure sending unit, which goes to a gauge inside, it moved the OEM switch further out from the block. You'll see that in a previous video, but that means I need to have a longer wire on the connector for that, because as it is, it's not long enough to go down and snap back on to the factory connector, primarily because on the turbo models they have this heat shielding protector for this switch connector. If you can see that, this thing, and it's not flexible, and it's supposed to, it's going to stick out like that. You'll see when I connect it, but long story short, I need to extend this wire so that I can plug this in and then maneuver this heat shielding onto it. So we're gonna start with that. Okay, so you just saw me pull the blow-off valve off of the turbocharger. This is already an aftermarket improvement to the stock blow-off valve, which, if I show you the original turbocharger and blow-off valve, here is the original, the stock blow-off valve, which, you know, 20 years old, that could have died and not have the best performance, especially for an upgraded turbo. So this was the first upgrade I was going to do, but then I realized I had also purchased a different aftermarket blow-off valve. We took off this Turbo XS aftermarket blow-off valve, which mounts in the same location as the OEM blow-off valve. This would have been a good improvement, but I actually have something better that I'm going to use, and that is the HKS Super SQV blow-off valve. This guy here, which I'll eventually, when I get to those hoses and the intercooler lines and the intake manifold, we'll get this mounted. But that's what's coming, and so you can see it mounts different than this Turbo XS or the factory blow-off valve, because it's on the intercooler. This would be the return line, okay, and there is a spot for the HKS, and this stuff I got from modernperformance.com. Great if you want PT Cruiser and Neon and a lot of other stuff upgrades. But they have this intercooler return hose, and they weld on this fitting for an HKS. So it fits right in there. It's going to work great. And this is an upgraded blow-off valve because it reduces back pressure, it handles it better, it's got like multi-stage internal sealing capabilities, so it doesn't have back pressure that goes back into the throttle body, which can cause the chugging that you sometimes hear with turbochargers on motors, and some people like that sound and that effect, but I'm going for quality of idle and throttle and performance. So this is going to be an improvement on that. It's going to, and also longevity. It's going to be better for the life of the motor and the turbocharger, because it won't be you know, doing that back pressure and potentially damaging. What we got to do, since we took off that factory blow-off valve, or in this case took off the upgraded blow-off valve I was going to use, is we got to put a plate on it. So again, from Modern Performance, got a plate that I got to put on there, and you have to use the red RTV sealant. That's for high temperature because it's on the turbocharger. So got to put some RTV sealant on there, bolt it on, and then we can